G.I. Joe will return after these messages.
Friends and family of the Red Cup Review, welcome back. As always, it is your host, Rob Banks, and today I am pumped and excited out of my mind to show you guys the Wave 1 of the G.I. Joe Classified series. Ever since Hasbro took their 3 3/4 inch figures for Star Wars and blew them up for their Black series, there's been a huge outcry, at least from my perspective, to get our favorite Joes in 6-inch form. The paint decos are a little bit different. They still hold their classic, the integrity of the classic cartoon, but they're updated for modern times. You got 5 figures in the first wave, the villain being Destro. You got Scarlet, Roadblock, Duke, and of course the fan favorite Snake Eyes. I can't wait to show you guys this stuff. This has been a long time coming. G.I. Joe's kind of been sleeping and lying dormant for the better part of a decade or so. And now we have our Classified series, and Wave 2 is already up for pre-order. Links below to catch these figures. Comment below and let us know what you think of the Classified G.I. Joe Wave 1. Alright, let's get on with the review.
Now, back to G.I. Joe.
Here's the full lineup of Wave 1, and these figures scale really well with one another, right? You got Destro comes in at about 6.5 inches tall. Scarlet just barely hits the 6-inch mark, as does Snake Eyes. He's just at right about 6 inches. And Duke is at about 6.25 inches, and Roadblock is just under 6.5 inches. So I believe Destro is actually the tallest. Well, he actually might just be a little bit, because, I have his head kind of looking down a little. So they're probably about the same size. If not, Roadblock might be just a hair taller than Destro. Anyways, they scale really well with one another. This is how they're going to look in your lineup. Now we're going to remove some of these figures to show you guys how they pretty much scale with some certain other action figure lines. Here's a DC Universe Classics. Not that you would position this figure with these figures, but there's Superman. He's obviously towering over the other Joes. Here you have Multiple Man. Here's a Marvel Legend. This guy fits pretty much right in line with everything else. Again, he is a Hasbro toy, so he is going to scale pretty well. Here, put him on this side to give you guys an idea. Yeah, Jamie is much shorter. And the reason why I'm putting him here is because he's kind of like the regular dude, right? He's like more of a regular hero, height-wise and stuff. Here's Cyclops, a Mezco Cyclops. Mezco Cyclops also kind of scales pretty well. I think Cyclops is around 6 foot, 2 or 3 or something like that. And I believe Duke over here is about 6'1". So, yeah, he's a little bit taller. Also, Mezco's also happen to run a little bit on the taller side. But I don't know why you would mix these figures. But if you did want to do that for a display or for some action figure photography, they do kind of, pretty much scale well. You guys could figure it out. And I'm sure you guys could take weapons from your Marvel Legends and give them to the G.I. Joes. Some people have already been doing that because they're not a fan of the laser weapons. That's fine too. And I'm sure I don't know about the jacket of a Mezco jacket fitting on one of these guys. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk it. That's not what we're here for. We're here to look at these figures and see what they're all about. We're going to start off the review by taking a look at the G.I. Joe Field Commander Duke, standing in at just over 6.5 inches tall. And we're going to start with the head sculpt, which I think is absolutely perfect, in my opinion, for an updated look at this character. He's got that square jaw that he's known for, the crystal blue eyes that just speaks Americana with the blonde hair. This is like the old school American soldier. And I think they nailed it, especially with the little bit of the update they gave him in the haircut, which is fine. The hair sculpt is very well done. The 2 tones that they use for the blondes on the top of the head give it some depth, and that works well too. Even the scar above his eye is very well done. You got to remember these are still $20 action figures, so the super ridiculous accuracy with almost zero paint imperfections, you're going to have to kind of dismiss a little bit, like this one right here. Then again, they are soldiers, so I'm willing to dismiss paint imperfections a little bit that are around the body, although this one doesn't seem to have that many, because they do get rough and tough and all that other stuff, but the paint applications are pretty freaking awesome. So as far as the head sculpt goes, I think it's excellently well done. There's very little bleed. There's a smidge at the top there that you're seeing as far as the hairline goes, and that's fine too, because you really don't see it from that far away to begin with. And again, they are $20 action figures, and these things, aren't going to be as perfect, as super perfect as we would hope they would be. But for a $20 toy, again, can't say that enough. This does pretty much the job it was intended to do. The costume looks really well done. I don't mind these updated greaves that they gave him over here, as far as like the shin guards. Some people online are saying like, oh, you know, the GI Joes, these guys love their shin guards, but it's fine, it's cool, it's updated. They got that little bit of a futuristic feel, which is why I don't mind the futuristic type weapons, because let's face it, they shot lasers in the original cartoon, and that didn't bother me too much. Plus, with all the, how do I put this lightly, with all the people in the world that are up in arms, all the Karens of the world, so to speak, that can't stand their children's playing with guns, giving them futuristic weapons, listen, these are going to be sold at major retailers. These aren't adult-only figures, so I'll take what we can get. Speaking of, I'm going to go over the articulation with this figure right now. Pretty much all the other figures run in the same type of articulation, so I'm not going to go through the articulation of each individual figure. However, I will take a closer look at some of their weapons when we go through the weapons and stuff like that. So we're going to pull his weapon out here and take a look at the articulation. This wrist, which is the right wrist on most figures, goes in and out this way and rotates around. The left wrist actually has an articulation joint up over here, and this goes up and down, still articulates all the way around. All the figures have double jointed elbows, which is really nice because you can get really good range of motion in there like that. And they also have a butterfly joint in here, so you can get their arms to really cross over their chests really nice and deep, and you can get some really dope poses with that. Stay tuned for the end of the video. We do a pose down section with that stuff, and we don't need that right now either. So the arms go out that way, they go all the way up and around, okay, which is great. Awesome ab crunch going forward, pretty decent ab crunch going backwards. The head looks all the way up, which is really nice, and it also looks down really far too. It doesn't do too much side to side tilt, but that's fine. There's actually a little bit tiny little articulation in the bottom part of the neck here, so when you do move it side to side, you're not just going to get it here. You're just going to have to kind of really, you know, I don't know why you would want to do that with his head, but I don't know. People want to hear about the articulation. Now, as far as the legs go, oh, he also has a, you know, waist swivel up over here. He has the thigh cut, so his thighs go in and out. You ain't going to have to worry about this on any of the figures dropping down below this piece, because they obviously put, before they attach the leg, they put this piece on, which is actually thinner than the fatter part of the thigh, so you can have to worry about it like kind of coming down the way that Cyclops Marvel Legend figure did a couple of years back. Now, as far as the legs go, they do go forward about that far, and they do have the split, but you don't just grab them and split them. With these new way to articulate these legs go, you actually pull them down. You could see inside there, I don't know if you guys could see all the way in there, but in there, there's like a double articulation type joint thing going on. Wait, can you see that? See that right there? That's what I'm talking about. So you pull the leg down, you can pull that one down a little bit, and then you can get him to do the split. So don't just start grabbing the legs and yanking on them. So he's got a pretty decent split there. Again, he has the double joints in the knees that go all the way up, so you can get him in a dope kneeling pose, right? You can get them like this and stuff. Again, you're going to have to give me some time to do some more posing at the end of the video. Here is just the articulation section. Obviously, they have a boot cut here. All the figures have this boot cut as well. They have great ankle rockers, something that even Mezco $100 action figures can learn from this. They have nice stiff ankle rockers too, so you don't have to worry about them getting too loose over time. And they don't go back that far, but they do go forward a little bit. See, so you could really just get them to stand flat on the ground, and his feet will stay flat on the ground. See that? All right, there you go. So that's pretty much the entire articulation section. Now, as far as getting him in a pose where you can put his weapon in his hand and have him pose with it, like looking down the, you know, like down the sight barrel, which you can do. Here's where the G.I. Joes kind of fall a little bit flat, is in their weapons. The paint on the weapons ain't really all that great. It's decent, but it is still flat colored. So for those of you that are customizers, I may do another video where I take some black wash and show you guys how to brush up on your weapons to make them look a little bit more authentic. All right, so you take this. The hands, here's another little caveat on the figures. The hands aren't very rubberized. They're actually pretty hard plastic. So when you take the hand and you want to slip the weapon in, be really careful because you don't want to snap these three fingers here. This weapon actually goes in a little bit easier than some of the other ones, and the finger goes right there on the trigger. I don't know if you guys are getting that, if it's getting too blurry for you. There you go. All right, and you can pose it right over his chest. You take the other hand, you could put it up on here. You guys have probably already seen this in the promotional shots, right? And you can get him holding it over that way. You could even pull it up and rotate it and articulate it to where you can get him like kind of looking down his sights, which is really dope, where obviously he would probably be looking with this eye, and you can do that too. So that works pretty well. And as far as other weapons that comes with, he comes with his sidearm, that goes right into the pouch there, which is pretty cool, and he holds that really well also. And back here he has his binoculars, and they kind of clip onto the belt really well too, because On this, there's like a little bit of a nub there, which is really cool because some of these things that peg into belts and stuff on action figures, you peg them in, and as soon as you move the figure, the articulation and move them around, they pop out. But because of that little nub, you can stick it on there and look, pulling it. Yeah, it ain't coming out, so that's pretty good. Obviously, he has his backpack. Here's the backpack, just like the old school backpacks. No, this is not removable here. That would have been really cool if the shovel was removable. And it just pegs in just like that, and it stays on there. Stays on there really well. So there you have it. There's Duke. Let's move on to the next figure. Up next, we're looking at Destro, and I've seen a lot of complaints about some of these figures not being totally, super cartoon accurate. I know that us older collectors want like an actual total old school drop back to the original toys we grew up with, but these are updated for a modern generation, and they're pretty damn close to the stuff we grew up with. And no one, in my opinion, is more accurate besides Snake Eyes than Destro. Destro's really accurate to his original cartoon with just these little improvements up over here and the shoulder armor and stuff, which is fine because he still has that big V collar with the red in the middle. We're going to be taking a look at his head sculpt here, and the paint is done really, really well on it. It's actually extra shiny because, I got the lights on it, and you guys are seeing this in 4K and all that other good stuff. So because the lights are right on it, that's why you're getting a lot of reflection. The head is metallic colored, and he even has irises. Take a look at that. The irises on the eyes actually give it another level of actually menacingness to it. And I didn't even notice it until I put this stuff under the camera. I'm not going to bother with the articulation on Destro. I'm going to talk more about the design of the character. He looks really well done, man. I mean, look, that's Destro. He looks like he's supposed to look. He even has his forearm wrist rockets here. That's important. That's a big part of the character. He's got a little spot for his sidearm here. One thing I'm loving about these figures is that you can take all their weapons and actually attach them to the character himself. So Destro comes with his sidearm. He comes with his rifle blaster, and he comes with his his patent, his trademark, so to speak, suitcase. And this actually opens up. We'll take a look at that in a second. Taking a look at the weapon. This weapon is actually a little bit better than the others, even though it's still kind of flat black. It has a little bit of red to give it some of that accents, and it fits the character very well. As far as, his head is not as articulated as Duke's, but it still does its job. This is actually loose on the figure, so I'm sure if you pop the head off, you could even remove the jewel if you wanted to, but I think the jewel is cool because that's another one of his trademarks there, and all the articulation is pretty much the same. All the color is done very well. Notice how the belt is kind of riding up. That's something that these figures tend to do. You can actually position the belt around and maneuver it around a little bit, so in case it rides up, you can always reposition it to get into the position you want to. It's not stuck on the figure. That's its own piece, right? So there you go. There you have it. There's Destro. He looks great and intimidating, right? At this point, look at that. Yeah, you could pose it up and look like he's walking with his briefcase. The briefcase does go into his hands. Be careful, again, with the fingers on Destro. They are pretty tough. Now, taking a look at the briefcase, you got the Cobra symbol on one side and the red Cobra symbol on the other. Very cool. And they open like this. There's a little clip here and a little clip there. And bam, it opens up. And you got his bomb, or cash if you want it to be money, or it's probably a bomb. This guy's known for his bombs and stuff. His little computer with another Cobra symbol in there too, so that's pretty cool. You get yourself like a little 1/12 scale desk, and you have this sitting on the desk with Destro, checking it out. His Cobra commander's on his throne, looking at him from over his shoulder or pointing at him or some nonsense like that. It'd be pretty awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on Baroness. Both of these figures totally exceeded my expectations, but remember, this is only part 1. Part 2 is still out there, so go and check that out, where we take a closer look at Roadblock, Snake Eyes, and Scarlet, okay? Hope everybody enjoyed this video. These figures are a hella fun. See you in the next episode.
G.I. Joe will return after these messages.